Gentleman yields back. Thank you, Ranking Member. I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. McCaul, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A decade ago when I chaired this committee, Mr. Thompson and I passed a bill to authorize ICE into law. It was a bipartisan effort. It passed the House overwhelmingly, both Republican and Democrat. A decade later, here we are. The Dems have called to abolish ICE. Now they're trying to shut it down. So what has happened in that 10 years? Let's go back to the last 4 to 5 years. What happened in this country and at the border? As someone who lives in the border state of Texas, we saw the most dangerous, wide open border that I've seen in my 22 years in Congress. 10 to 12 million people, and that's what we know about. I think it's far greater, came into this country. Many of them dangerous, violent criminals, some known or suspected terrorists, which I find extremely dangerous. That's why I served as an impeachment manager for Mayorkas, because he violated federal law. The federal statute says, as a former federal prosecutor, I know this, shall detain aggravated felons. What did Mayorkas do? He told his agents, that's discretionary. You can release them. As a result, we had tens of thousands of aggravated felons left on the streets of America to roam freely, not to mention the human and sex trafficking of children, Mr. Lyons, as you pointed out. So what is the administration trying to do? They're trying to remove a public safety threat from the United States of America. That is their job. Restoring public safety should be the number one priority. And one of the problems here, as I examine it, is that Minnesota, Minneapolis in particular, is a sanctuary city. What does that mean? That means that it's a magnet for illegal. They're protected under the current situation because state and locals will not cooperate with federal law enforcement. In fact, Mr. Lyons, is it not true that they were not honoring ICE detainers that were put on dangerous felons in prison so that you could remove them from the United States?
That is correct, sir. The detainees were not honored at the local level in Minneapolis.
This is the number one violation. In addition, the rhetoric on the left led to over 1,000% increase in assaults on ICE officers, an increase of over 8,000 of death threats to them. All this created a perfect storm for our officers being thrown into this situation. And then Agent Bovino came into the picture, and I would argue, in fairness, that he escalated the situation by the way that was handled. Your officers are not trained to effectuate crowd control. They are trained to move in surgically, go in and remove these dangerous, violent criminals from the United States of America. I've called for de-escalation after the two deaths, the two shootings that took place. I believe that these roving patrols should be done at the border rather than in the major cities of the United States. So when the president decided to remove Agent Bovino and put in Tom Homan, who I've known for years, a consummate professional, law enforcement professional, I commended the president. And what has been done since Mr. Homan came into the job? We now have targeted law enforcement operations. He is returning to the original mission of ICE. He is working with state and locals to do the crowd control. He is getting them to honor the ICE detainers. He is also getting the body cameras put on them. And the roving patrols, in his words to me, should be done at the border, not in major cities. My question to you, Mr. Lyons, is Mr. Homan now, are his operations in Minneapolis now bringing the situation under control?
So we've seen a de-escalation in the fact that the protests, while they still go on, have subsided, and ICE has been allowed to do their targeted, intelligence-driven enforcement operation. Just the other night, local authorities arrested 54 protesters at the local level where ICE officers did not have to be engaged in that.
My final question to you, do you believe the model that Mr. Homan is now setting in Minneapolis should be a model for the nation?
Gentleman's time is
If
expired.
I could allow the witness to answer.
I understand that, but I'm holding
I'd
it
like
to
on the
5 minutes.
record an answer, Mr. Chairman. Do you agree that Mr. Homan's model is one for the nation?
Gentleman's time is expired.
Yes or no?
I now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Swalwell,